Hi Fantasy Managers, welcome to FPL Team Talk. With less than 2 weeks to go till the World Cup, the official fantasy game has been launched. In this video, we're going to take you through some of the basics, all the things you need to know about the scoring, how the chips work, how it differs in each round. So whether you're an FPL veteran or you're new to Fantasy Premier League, Fantasy World Cup, we will guide you through the whole process. We'll be here with team selections, watch lists each week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to get the latest content. But in the meantime, let's take a look. The Fantasy World Cup is live. The website is there. You can go and register your team, and all the players are there available for you to select your side with your given budget of £100 million. Just bear in mind that in fact the final 26-man squad does not need to be finalised until Monday, and then those squads across all internationals will be announced by FIFA on the Tuesday. So hopefully by Wednesday next week, those will be all up on the website, and we can know with some assuredness that those players are going to take part in the World Cup. So even though you can select your side now, there's a final round of matches across Europe to play domestically. Things could happen, hopefully not, but players could become injured and again just rule themselves out for the World Cup. But no harm in starting to put your side and registering it now. You of course have up until kickoff, until that first match in the World Cup takes place, 4 o'clock next Sunday. Qatar versus Ecuador. This is a bit different from normal FPL because you do get to see those team sheets, which might not necessarily affect us for that first game too much, but in future weeks, that first kickoff game in the match day week may make a bit of a difference, leaving it as late as you can to make your transfers. You have £100 million budget, as is per customary. 15 players you've got to choose from. It does rise to 105 million when it goes to the group stages. You'll get a chance to rehash your side with unlimited transfers once it enters the knockout stages with a higher budget to work with, presumably because we're expecting the bigger sides with the most expensive players in to progress. You are limited to the amount of players you are allowed to have in each nation. 3 from one country in the first round, then 4 in the last 16, 5 quarterfinals, 6 in the semi-final, and 8 for the final itself. Captaincy is a big part of this game. So one thing I will say is when we talk about match day, and when FIFA have announced match days, it's actually, they mean effectively a game week. So match day 1, in which all 32 sides will play, will run from the Sunday to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then on to the Thursday as well, when that will be the final set of games in that match day 1. So all 32 clubs, international sides will play. Captaincy works then, unlike normal FPL. If you played the Euros last year, you'll be a bit more familiar with this. You can select a captain at the start of the week, and you might go for someone like Courtois who's playing on match day 1, game 1, and if he doesn't perform very well, he might only get 2 points. You can decide, well, I'm going to jump off him, and then the next day I've got Dumfries playing. I'm going to captain him instead. So if Courtois' points doubled on the first day, would then obviously go back to his 2. Dumfries, if he scores well, you can keep your captaincy on him. As opposed to the Euros last year, you're able to choose a different one each day. You're only allowed to change it once. So you've got to be a little bit more selective. It's nice that you can change your captain if one fails, but you only get to do it once. So we're going to have to be a little bit more selective about who we choose as possible captains this time, and not just jump from day 1 to day 2 to day 3. So that's important. Substitutions. The wording on the website suggests that you can make unlimited substitutions, or make as many substitutions as you want for your players on the bench, which is what a maximum of 1 goalkeeper and 3 outfield players, anytime before the game kicks off. So if I've got Courtois again and he doesn't perform very well, if Alisson's playing later on in the day or later on in the week, as long as I do it before his game kicks off, I can move Alisson in and I'm stuck with his points. I can't go back to Courtois, but I can do that with any players. Again, a match day being a match week with all 32 sides. If your player doesn't play at all and he's in your starting 11, he will automatically be substituted, and the first player on your bench will come into your side. So that will take place at the end of the match day, provided you haven't manually done it already. Instead of chips, they're calling them boosters. So we get not only a brand new side at the start, you get unlimited transfers when the knockout stages start, but on top of that, you get a wild card as well to use, unlimited transfers within budget for any round of match days you want. So that's nice. There's also a new thing which I've never heard of before, bit funky, 12th man. So one additional player will score points on top of your 11 players. So you can bring in one player out of your budget to just add to your 11 players. He can be anyone, but he can't be captained and he can't be transferred in the same game week or part of your squad or transferred out. He will just be lost at the end of that week. So for 1 week only, you can bring in, let's say, an Mbappe if you couldn't afford him for his game, and he will go on top of your 11 points. Quite interesting. Not sure how that's going to work out. On top of that, you also get the power captain. This is quite nice. So you don't need to select a captain for a game week. The highest scoring player in your side will automatically be made captain. So you have that decision sort of, or quandary taken away from you, and he will score double points. If it's a high popular player that you could have captained anyway, maybe you wouldn't have benefited. But if it's an unusual player that comes in your squad that scores a lot of points, suddenly he could be a real differential and make a big difference. So you've got 12th man, wildcard, and power captain. Transfers are interesting as well. Pre-tournament, obviously we set up the side as much as you want. Then you get 2. We get 1 a week before the match day. You can then, match day 2, if you roll your 1 over, which you expect to do, in match day 2, you'll have 2. Match day 3, you can only have 2. You can't roll another 1 over. Before round of 16, you would have unlimited, so we get to rehash our side. 4 transfers after the quarterfinals, 5 before the semi-finals, and 6 before the final. You can make additional transfers, but it will cost you 3 points. So if you carry your first free transfer over after match day 1 to match day 2, you will get an extra transfer. So again, you can take hits if you want. Points scoring system, little bit different. Not hugely different, I'd say, from Fantasy League, but there's 1 or 2 anomalies that could make certain players more appealing or certain types of players more appealing. Every player that plays for 60 minutes gets a point. 3 points for an assist. Yellow card, you lose a point. Red card, you lose 2. Own goal, 2. All the sort of standard stuff. Winning a penalty, doesn't matter if they score or not, 2 points. So if you own a player who gets a penalty, he'll get 2 points. And the player who takes it is not your player. You really want him to miss. So he then doesn't get the goal. There's no goal scored, but you still get 2 points for winning the penalty. Arguably, if he scores, you've been better off getting an assist, but he does get points guaranteed for a penalty. Conceding a penalty, if your player is responsible, you lose a point. So that's new and different as well. Let's specify in terms of individual positions. Goalkeeper, not sure why, they've got to play 70 minutes, not 60 to get 5 points. Shouldn't expect many goalkeepers to be subbed at that point. Anyway, 5 points if he gets up to 70 minutes. After that, first goal conceded, he doesn't lose any points. He just obviously gets that clean sheet wiped off. He loses a point for every goal he concedes after that. If he scores, wow, he will get 9 points. I don't know if a goalkeeper's ever scored an open play in a World Cup free kick. Maybe I'm wrong. Penalty saves, 3 points. Every 3 saves he makes, bit like FPL, he gets an extra bonus point. So there you have it for goalkeepers. Moving on to the defenders then. Again, they just need 5 points. They only need to get 60 minutes, which is a bit more traditional. I don't know why they changed it from 70 for goalkeepers. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason. If you know, let me know in the comments below. First goal conceded, again, they just lose that clean sheet. And then every goal after that, they lose a point. Goal scored, 7 points. So if you've got an attacking defender who gets on the score sheet, especially if he keeps clean sheet, wow, you're absolutely laughing all the way to the bank. In terms of midfielders then, there is an important tweak to this. Clean sheet, 1 point, as we know. Every 3 tackles they make, they get a point. So that's interesting. That makes, I suppose, CDMs, more defensive midfielders who are less creative, quite appealing. Even box to box, who's going to get tackles in, quite appealing. 2 key passes gets you a point. Key passes defined as being someone you pass the ball to has a shot on goal. So if you can get someone who's box to box making lots of tackles and key passes, suddenly he could be racking up a few points. We'll have to look into the statistics to see how effective or how likely that is. Goal scored gets 5 points. And obviously 3 points for an assist for your midfielders as well. There's none of this bonus point scoring system in terms of 3-2-1 that we find in FPL. 5 points for a goal is scored for your forwards. 2 shots on target, 1 point. Interesting. And the same for an assist, 3 points. Other things I think that are important to know. 2 yellow cards might mean a suspension. Well, will mean a suspension. So the following game you get a suspension. 1 red, straight away you will be suspended for the next game. All cards are not wiped off after the group stages, but up until the quarterfinals. So The reason for that is that your best teams will have their best players available for the semi-final and the final. So the only way you can actually miss the final is if you got a red card in the semi-final, because you'll be on a clean slate when it gets to the semi-finals. It is important, I think, to bear this in mind. 2 yellow cards in the group stages, let's say the first match and second match, means that suddenly a dead rubber for that team if they've already qualified. Maybe that player will then just be rested and make sure he's ready for the knockout stages and not risked for that third game. Possibly. Cannot play more than 2 of your chips, your boosters, in one match day. You must have at least 3 defenders and 1 striker, it should be. And in terms of strategies, having looked at the boost and having a quick think about it, these are really my preliminary thoughts at the moment. We'll nail more of these strategies later on. Wildcard potentially in match day 3 looks like an option. And again, looking at those teams that would have definitely have qualified already going into the game week, or match day 3, not game week 3. They could be resting 1 or 2 players. They could be rotation. So different players playing. That may mean that you're struggling to get 11 players out. For example, if Neymar and Brazil have already qualified, if he was on 2 yellow cards, why risk him for a game that they've already won the group over? Equally, even why risk him for an injury's sake against a team he doesn't need to play against? Give him a rest. So that could affect you. And you won't know, especially up until deadline day, whether he's going to play or not either. That's the annoying thing with that. Also, in the first 3 games, like match days, in the group stages, we're more likely to see some higher scoring games. England and Iran are more likely, not guaranteed to score more goals against Iran than they will in the group stages where they'll be playing tougher oppositions. So maybe playing your chips in these group stages will give you a higher ceiling to the amount of points you can gain. That reason, potentially playing your power captain match day 1. We know the type of sides, strongest sides will be put out. Who's going to score the most points? Just put your power captain on. And again, 12th man possibly in match day 2, where everyone will still have stuff to play. Again, you can get a player that maybe you couldn't afford to come into your side. So those are some preliminary thoughts about strategies and how to play them. We will be sort of looking in more depth about these and putting a side together next week. That's it for this one then. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you intend to do with your chips. Which players are you looking to bring into your World Cup fantasy football? After the weekend, I'll have a bit more time, I think, to concentrate on the World Cup after I've got my Premier League sorted out. And then we're going to come and look at team selection and delve a bit deeper before the World Cup. There's not much time to spare, so make sure you hit that like. Don't forget to subscribe, and I shall speak to you soon.